A hotel made in Dubai opens room 230. The man lies peacefully on his bed. Medicine bottle on the nightstand. Door. Chain from inside. Natural death, the police assume. Then security cameras reveal the impossible. Over 600 hours of footage showing 27 operatives stalking one man through luxury hotels disguised as tennis players, tourists, and businessmen. They entered his locked room without breaking anything, ended his life without leaving marks, and vanished across continents using passports stolen from innocent civilians. The year is 2010 and the world is about to witness the most documented assassination in history. Operation so brazen it was captured on film, yet remains officially unsolved. This is Operation Plasma Screen, when Mossad turned a five-star hotel into an execution chamber while the cameras rolled. The Emirates flight touched down at Dubai International Airport at 14:30 hours. Mahmoud Al-Maba collected his single carry-on bag and moved through customs with the practiced ease of a frequent traveler. His passport listed him as a merchant. The immigration officer stamped it without questions. Outside, the afternoon sun hammered down on asphalt, still radiating heat from midday. Mahmoud climbed into a taxi and gave the driver an address. The Al-Bustan Rat Anna Hotel. What he could not see were the eyes already tracking him. At gate 17, a woman in sunglasses watched him pass. Near the baggage carousel, a man pretending to read a newspaper noted the time. In the parking structure, another operative transmitted a brief message through an encrypted phone. Plasma Screen has arrived. Mahmoud Al-Maba was not his real name, though he had used it for years. Born in Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp in 1960, he had grown from a teenager lifting weights in makeshift gyms to one of Hamas's most valuable assets. His specialty was logistics, the silent architecture of war. He did not build bombs or fire rockets. Instead, he orchestrated the networks that moved Iranian weapons into Gaza through Sudan, Egypt, and the labyrinth of tunnels beneath Rafah. It was the man who made sure Hamas fighters had missiles when they needed them, anti-tank rounds when Israeli armor advanced, and money when operations required funding. Israeli intelligence had tracked him for 2 decades. His file at Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv was thick with surveillance photos, intercepted communications, and forensic accounting that traced millions of dollars flowing through his accounts. It had been on their target list since 1989, when he personally participated in the kidnapping and execution of 2 Israeli soldiers. One of them, 21-year-old Avi Sasparis, was grabbed at a hitchhiking stop, shot 3 times, and buried in a pre-dug grave. The second, Elon's son, was lured into a car by men dressed as Orthodox Jews and killed with a Beretta pistol. Mahmoud posed for photographs with both bodies before disposal. For those crimes, for his role in arming Hamas, and for his position as a bridge between Thran and Gaza, Mahmoud carried what Mossad called a red page, an open authorization for elimination. It had no expiration date, would remain active until officially revoked or successfully executed. And on this January afternoon, as he checked into room 230 at the Rat Anna, that authorization was about to be fulfilled. Dubai in 2010 was a city obsessed with security. Lieutenant General Dahi Khalfan Tamim, chief of the Dubai police, had convinced the government to install one of the most extensive closed-circuit television networks in the world. American-made cameras covered streets, malls, hotels, and airports. Every major intersection, every lobby, every elevator was monitored. The system was designed to deter crime and catch criminals. What it would actually document was something far more sophisticated. The operatives knew about the cameras. They had studied Dubai's security infrastructure for months. Yet they proceeded anyway, not out of recklessness but calculation. The mission timeline was compressed. Mahmoud had traveled without his bodyguards, a rare vulnerability. His security detail could not get seats on his flight and would arrive the following day. That narrow window was the only opportunity. Mossad's planners had decided that speed mattered more than invisibility. They would move fast, execute precisely, and disappear before Dubai police realized what had happened. The first operatives had arrived on January 18th, the day before Mahmoud. Exactly 6:45 in the morning, airport. Cameras captured two men traveling under the names Michael Baudenheimer and James Leonard Clark. They carried European passports and moved through immigration without incident. By noon, two more had landed from Paris. Gail Folliard and Kevin Devon, Irish nationals, according to their documents. They checked into separate hotels, established cover stories as tourists, and waited for instructions. Peter Ealinger arrived at 0229 in the morning on the 19th, just hours before Mahmoud's flight. Authorities would later describe his luggage as suspicious, though they did not specify why. Ealinger was believed to be the field commander, the operational brain coordinating movements. Security footage showed him exiting the terminal, circling back inside, meeting briefly with another operative, then taking a taxi to his hotel. Every action appeared casual. Nothing suggested the precision of military choreography beneath the surface. By the time Mahmoud landed that afternoon, 11 operatives were already positioned across Dubai. Some waited in hotel lobbies, others sat in rental cars. A few loitered in shopping malls, blending into the crowds of tourists and expatriates that filled the city. They communicated through encrypted phones, routed through numbers in Vienna, Austria. A deliberate misdirection, designed to mask the operation's true command center. Mahmoud arrived at the Rat Anna at 15:20. He moved through the lobby with calm confidence. A man accustomed to traveling in hostile environments, he asked for a room without a balcony, windows sealed, only one entrance. The request was standard for someone aware of threats. The hotel staff accommodated him without question, assigning room 230 on the second floor. Before going upstairs, Mama deposited cash and documents in the hotel safe. Then he rode the elevator up, flanked by two men dressed in tennis outfits, carrying rackets. They stood close enough to note his floor, his room number, the exact location of his door. Mahmoud did not react to their presence. Tennis players were common in luxury hotels. He had no reason to suspect them. The two lookouts, later identified by their blue and white shirts, spent the next hour pacing the second floor corridor. One stood near the elevator, making calls on what appeared to be a secure communication device. The other walked back and forth, observing who entered and exited rooms. They were mapping the terrain, confirming guard schedules, identifying the room directly across from Mahmoud's room 237. At 1547, a woman named Gail arrived at the Fairmont Hotel several miles away. Investigators believe this was where the final briefing occurred. The assassination squad gathered in a conference room, reviewed the plan one last time, synchronized watches, and confirmed contingencies. By 1614, Kevin Devon had left the Fairmont and was driving toward the Rat Anna. 2 minutes later, Gail followed. The machinery was in motion. Peter Elving, the field commander, booked room 237 from the business lounge of a nearby hotel. It made 2 phone calls from that location, one arranging the room, the other booking his own flight out of Dubai via Doha to Zurich. Then he left the lounge and arrived at the Rat Anna at 1623. It checked in formally and obtained the electronic key and handed it to Kevin in the lobby. Then he placed a suitcase beside Kevin and walked out of the hotel. By 1640, Elvinger was en route to the airport. He would board a 1930 flight and be gone before the operation concluded. Kevin and Gail entered room 237 at 1644 and 1706 respectively. Over the next hour, 2 more operatives joined them, one apparently wearing a wig as disguise. Security footage captured Gail leaving at 1821, carrying several bags to the parking lot where other team members waited. She returned minutes later. The room now held the operational core, Kevin, Gail, and 4 designated executioners. At 1832, the foreman hit squad entered the Rat Anna. 2 wore baseball caps, 1 white, 1 dark. The others dressed in casual shirts, 1 green, 1 blue. They carried a black backpack and a black and white duffel bag. Cameras showed them ascending to the second floor and entering room 237. Inside that room, the team would wait for the precise moment to move. Mahmoud had left the hotel briefly at 1623 for reasons never fully clarified. Some reports suggest he met with a banker and an Iranian Revolutionary Guard contact at a nearby mall. Others claim he simply went shopping. What is certain is that he returned at 2024, walked past Gail in the corridor, who was smiling and talking on her phone, and entered his room. His key worked normally. The door showed no signs of tampering. He had no reason to believe anything was wrong. Exactly 2,000 hours, the hit squad attempted to access his room. The hotel's electronic lock system logged a failed reprogramming attempt using an unregistered key. They were trying to hack the door, recoding it to grant access without disabling Mahmoud's own. The technology was sophisticated, likely rehearsed on similar locks during training. But at that moment, a hotel guest exited the elevator. Kevin intercepted the guest, engaging him in conversation while the team either stepped back or slipped inside, undetected. The surveillance cameras, positioned at angles that did not directly face the door, could not capture the precise method of entry. What happened inside room 230 remains partially unknown. No audio was recorded. No witnesses survived to describe the sequence, but forensic evidence revealed the brutal efficiency of the operation. Mahmoud was first immobilized with suinyl chloride, a fast-acting muscle relaxant, injected into his right hip. The drug induces paralysis within 60 seconds, while leaving the victim conscious, unable to move, unable to scream, fully aware of what is happening. Higher doses shut down respiratory function, leading to death by asphyxiation. The team also used a stun gun. Burn marks were found on Mahmoud's chest, behind his ear, and on his inner thigh. The shocks were likely intended to simulate cardiac arrest, making the death appear natural. But the final method was suffocation. Pillow stained with his blood was discovered. He bled from the nose as he struggled. Broken bed slats beneath the mattress and damage to the headboard indicated violent resistance. Mahmoud Amabu, the man called the Fox for his ability to sense danger, fought his killers in silence, while Kevin and Gail stood guard outside, ensuring no one interrupted. The entire execution took 20 minutes. By 2046, the first two members of the hit squad exited the hotel carrying the large duffel bag believed to contain the murder instruments. One left behind a latex glove. All four rode the elevator together but exited separately to avoid drawing attention. At 2047, Gail walked out, still on her phone. Kevin followed. At 2051, the male and female lookouts stationed in the lobby since earlier that evening departed. At 2052, they scattered into the Dubai night, catching taxis to the airport in pairs. Within 12 hours, they would be dispersed across Europe, Africa, and Asia using forged passports and stolen identities. Mahmoud lay dead in his locked room, the door chained from inside, a medicine bottle staged and on the nightstand to suggest overdose. The scene was arranged to appear like natural death during sleep. It would take investigators 10 days to determine the truth. Mahmoud's wife tried calling him that night. The phone rang unanswered. Hamas headquarters in Damascus grew concerned when he failed to report in. On January 20th at approximately 13:30, a hotel maid discovered his body. He had missed checkout and staff went to investigate. What they found was a man lying peacefully on his bed. No visible wounds, no signs of struggle beyond the broken bed frame hidden beneath the mattress. Initial reports leaned toward natural causes: sudden hypertension, triggering brain failure, and overdose, cardiac arrest. Only after Dr. Fauzi Benamran performed the autopsy did the pieces begin falling into place: the injection site, the electrical burns, the traces of suinyl chloride still detectable in his tissues, the blood on the pillow, the bruising on his nose, neck, and head. The official death certificate ultimately listed brain hemorrhage caused by electrocution from a powerful shock to the head. Dubai police did not initially know who the victim was. Mahmoud had traveled under an alias, though Hamas later insisted he used his real name and real passport. The confusion delayed the investigation. But when Hamas finally disclosed his identity to Lieutenant General Tamim, the police chief exploded in fury. Yourselves, your bank accounts, your weapons, your forged passports, and get out of my country, he reportedly shouted at Hamas representatives. His anger was not just about the violation of Emirati sovereignty. It was personal. His office was located minutes away from the Rotana. The assassination had occurred practically under his nose. Tamim ordered his investigators to pull every frame of security footage from the airport, hotels, malls, and streets. What emerged was an astonishing timeline. 648 hours of video documenting 27 suspects moving through Dubai like ghosts. The footage showed operatives changing disguises in restrooms, making calls through encrypted phones, trailing Mahmoud through lobbies and corridors, coordinating movements with military precision. On February 15, Dubai police held a press conference and released an edited video seeking public assistance in identifying the perpetrators. The footage went viral. News agencies worldwide broadcast images of the tennis players, the woman in sunglasses, the men with baseball caps. Intelligence analysts studied the video, frame by frame, marveling at the operation's audacity and its exposure. The scandal centered on the passports. 11 suspects had used meticulously forged documents based on stolen identities from real citizens living in Israel. 6 British passports, 3 Irish, 1 French, 1 German. The passport holders were genuine people, dual nationals, Holocaust survivors' descendants, ordinary citizens who had no knowledge. Their identities had been compromised. One British passport belonged to an Israeli soldier killed in the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Another was tied to a man who had never left Israel in 30 years. Ireland's Department of Foreign Affairs declared that the Irish passports had never been officially issued. The identification numbers were real, but the photos and signatures were fraudulent. France discovered 4 forged passports, including the one used by Peter Elvinger. Germany traced the passport of Michael Baudenheimer to a man who had claimed citizenship by descent from a Holocaust survivor, a false claim that provided cover for the forgery. The diplomatic fallout was immediate. Britain expelled a senior Israeli diplomat believed to be Mossad's local coordinator. Condemnations echoed across Europe. Yet those familiar with intelligence operations recognized the gestures as largely symbolic. Expelling embassy personnel signals disapproval, but the seniority of the expelled official indicates the gravity of protest. Beyond that, little could be done. The evidence was circumstantial. No one had been caught, and the victim was a senior member of a group officially designated as a terrorist organization by most Western nations. Lieutenant General Tam publicly declared that authorities were 99% if not 100% convinced that Mossad had conducted the operation. He demanded the arrest of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Mossad Director Meir Dagon. The statements made headlines but carried no legal weight. Israel maintained its policy of neither confirming nor denying responsibility. Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman dismissed the accusations as speculation, suggesting that perhaps the press had been watching too many James Bond films. The operatives belonged to Mossad's elite Caesarea unit, an organization that exists in the space between legend and classified files. Caesarea recruits primarily from Israel's special forces, Sirat Makal Shayet 13, former commandos trained in close quarters combat surveillance and deep infiltration. They live under assumed identities in apartments across Europe and the Middle East. Their neighbors do not know who they are. Their families sometimes do not know where they work. Failure is not an option. Success is measured by silence. Mike Harari, former Caesarea commander, once described the unit's philosophy: we don't apologize for what we do. We do what is necessary to protect our people. The operations are sanctioned at the highest levels. A red page. The assassination authorization requires joint approval from the Prime Minister and Defense Minister. It is not a direct order for Immediate action. It is permission. Standing indefinitely until revoked or executed. Mahmoud al-Mabayo had carried a red page since 1989. Training for Caesarea operatives occurs in secret facilities to which only their spouses are granted limited access. Their real names are never disclosed, not even in private conversation. They rarely interact with other Mossad divisions and generally avoid the organization's main headquarters in northern Tel Aviv. When they deploy, they do so alone or in small teams, relying on local assets, sign volunteer helpers embedded in Jewish communities worldwide who provide logistical support. Without knowing the full scope of operations, the Dubai mission had been years in preparation. Intelligence sources later revealed that Caesarea members had visited Dubai 5 times in the 9 months leading up to the assassination. They came in February, March, and June of 2009 conducting reconnaissance, mapping security systems, testing entry and exit routes. Their purpose was verification, confirming beyond doubt that the target was Mahmoud al-Maba, not someone using his name. The lesson of Lillehammer haunted every operation. In 1973, Mossad operatives had tracked Ali Hassan Salami, the Black September operations chief responsible for the Munich Olympic massacre, to the Norwegian town of Lillehammer. Acting on faulty intelligence, they shot and killed Ahmed Bouchiki, a Moroccan waiter and part-time musician who had no connection to terrorism. The agents were arrested, imprisoned, and Israel was forced to pay heavy reparations to Bouchiki's family. The humiliation was profound, since then Mossad protocol demanded meticulous identity verification before any lethal action. The Dubai operation succeeded in its primary objective. Mahmoud al-Mabel was eliminated. Hamas lost a critical logistics coordinator. Weapons smuggling networks were disrupted. Iran's direct pipeline to Gaza suffered a significant blow, but the exposure of the operation's methods created unforeseen consequences. Mossad's relationship with Western intelligence services deteriorated sharply. The use of forged European passports angered allies who had previously tolerated Israeli operations. As long as they remained deniable, Britain and France voiced the strongest protests, viewing the passport scandal as deliberate provocation. France was particularly worried that Hamas might interpret the forged French passports as evidence of French complicity, potentially sparking tensions within France's large Muslim population. June 2010, the head of Mossad's Caesarea unit, once considered a possible successor to Director Mayor Dean, offered his resignation. It was not accepted, signaling that Dean himself was assuming full responsibility for the debacle. Reports suggested that France sent 2 agents to personally meet with Dean and voice their disapproval. The message was clear. The line had been crossed intolerably. Yet within Israel, the operation was viewed differently. While no official acknowledgement was ever made, the successful elimination of a high-value target demonstrated Mossad's global reach and operational capability. It reinforced the perception that Israel's intelligence services could strike anywhere at any time, against anyone deemed a threat. The message was not lost on Hamas, Hezbollah, or Iran. No protection was absolute. No location was truly safe. Interpol added the photographs of 11 suspects to its most wanted list. Dubai police revealed that airport staff had conducted retinal scans on the same 11 individuals upon entry. Investigators discovered DNA from 4 operatives and fingerprints from several others. The biometric data was entered into international databases, yet no arrest followed. The operatives had vanished into the networks that created them, likely reassigned to desk duty, temporarily then redeployed to new missions under new identities. In December 2010, a mysterious case added another layer to the story. Ben Zigger, an Australian-Israeli dual national and alleged Mossad operative, was found dead in his cell inside Israel's most secure prison Ion facility. His case was so secretive that guards knew him only as Prisoner X, never being told his true identity. He was discovered in a supposedly suicide-proof cell just 2 days after conferring with prominent Israeli defense attorney Avigdor Feldman, unverified reports later, suggested that Ziguier had been involved in the Dubai operation but had betrayed the agency by handing intelligence over to Dubai police. Some sources claimed he exposed the names of the assassination squad in exchange for protection. Following that, authorities allegedly transferred him into a secure facility, but Mossad managed to abduct him, bring him back to Israel and isolate him inside Unit 15 at Island Prison. The claims were never independently confirmed. Ziguier's death was officially ruled suicide, though questions linger about how a high-security prisoner could end his life in a cell designed to prevent precisely that. What makes Operation Plasma Screen significant is not just the assassination itself, but the fact that it was captured on camera. For the first time, the world could see in forensic detail how a modern intelligence service conducts targeted elimination. The 648 hours of footage became a case study in operational tradecraft draft. Intelligence agencies worldwide analyzed the video, noting both the successes and failures. The successes were clear: rapid deployment, precise coordination, effective use of disguises and forged documents, clean execution without collateral damage, and escape before local authorities realized a crime had occurred. The failures were equally apparent: overconfidence in the face of surveillance, insufficient attention to biometric data collection at airports, reliance on stolen identities that could be traced, and underestimation of Dubai's police capabilities. Yet even with all the evidence, no one was ever prosecuted. The suspects' real names remain officially unknown. Israel never confirmed Mossad's involvement. Dubai issued arrest warrants that would never be served. Interpol circulated red notices that would never result in custody. The operatives who entered room 230 and ended Mahmoud al-Maybas' life disappeared into the same shadows from which they emerged, protected by the impenetrable wall of state secrecy. The years since, new figures have risen to fill Mahmoud's absence. Abdulaziz al-Rantizi, who succeeded him, was arrested in the United Arab Emirates in 2011 under suspicion of laundering funds linked to Hamas. The networks Mahmoud built continued to function, albeit with disruptions. Iran found new intermediaries. Hamas adapted its logistics chains. The cycle of violence continued, each death feeding the next round of retaliation. Operation Plasma Screen stands as a monument to both the capabilities and limitations of modern intelligence warfare. It demonstrated that with enough resources, planning, and willingness to accept diplomatic consequences, a state can eliminate its enemies anywhere on the planet. But it also revealed that in an age of ubiquitous surveillance and digital forensics, true invisibility is no longer possible. The ghosts can still kill, but they can no longer do so without leaving shadows on camera. The hotel cameras stopped recording. The operatives vanished into airports and train stations across 3 continents. Mahmoud al-Maybas' body was returned to Damascus and buried in Yarmouk, where he remains a martyr to many. Dubai police closed the case without arrest. Mossad added another file to its classified archives, and somewhere in Tel Aviv, planners began studying the mistakes, refining methods, preparing for the next red page that would need execution. What Operation Plasma Screen revealed is uncomfortable for those who prefer to believe the world operates by law rather than force. It showed that beneath the veneer of international norms and diplomatic protocols there exists a parallel system where certain states grant themselves the authority to eliminate threats through violence, wrapped in bureaucratic language and executed with surgical precision. The cameras captured the method. They did not capture the faces behind the masks, the names behind the aliases, or the offices where such decisions are made, with signatures instead of triggers. You found this story as chilling as we did? Hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss when we pull back the curtain on history's most secret operations. Drop it like if you appreciate the research that goes into these deep dives. And here's a question for the comments. You think operations like Plasma Screen make nations safer, or do they simply perpetuates cycles of violence that never. Let's hear your take. See you in the next